ASEAN Peoples Speak, Season 5. I'm Regine Jessica Abuel, your host for this podcast. For our final episode this season, we will be joined by a distinguished guest in research and advisory projects on human rights due diligence in Southeast Asia. He will help us understand the intersectionality of business, environment, and human rights in the ASEAN region. He is the Senior Business and Human Rights Specialist at the Foundation for International Human Rights Reporting Standards, or FIHRRST. He has nearly a decade of experience leading research and advisory projects for business enterprises, governments, United Nations bodies, or UN bodies, and civil society organizations to strengthen human rights due diligence and advance social development programs and design sustainability strategies in Southeast Asia. Everyone, without further ado, let us welcome our guest for our last episode, Dr. Unang Mulkhan. Hello, Dr. Unang from Jakarta, Indonesia.
Hello, yes, greeting from Jakarta.
Hello, and it's nice to see you today, Dr. Unang, and thank you so much for your time and presence. As we go through the last episode, maybe I just want to check up on you. How are you there in Jakarta?
Yes, it's a really sunny day today. It's yeah, uh, nice weather, and hopefully, is everything's about the political situation is getting better here.
Yeah, I hope so too. Well, let's start off. Maybe I can first ask you, what do you think, Dr. Unang, is the current landscape, or can you describe to us and the listeners um, the current landscape of business and human rights in the ASEAN region? Um, we want to know how the ASEAN countries are integrating human rights and environmental protections into business practices. So, can you give us a brief background or some some details about that?
Yeah, that's a really important questions. I would like to explain that if you look back over the past 20 years, the ASEAN has grown into one of the most dynamic region in the world. So we have seen like a rapid industrialization, a booming export sector, and a massive infrastructure and expansion. Yeah. So our economies are now tightly connected to the global supply chains, producing everything like from electric vehicle batteries and palm oil to the seafood and textile. So this growth has brought millions of people out of poverty and created huge opportunities. But it's also come with serious costs: environmental degradation, deforestation, land conflict, pollution, and persistent labor issues. So the big question now is how ASEAN can keep growing without sacrificing people's right or the planet health. So the encouraging part is that ASEAN is now starting to recognize this connection between business, the environment, and human rights. So at the regional level, the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, or ICHR, has been quite instrumental in pushing this conversation forward. Since around like 2016, ICHR has recognized the dialogue and regional consultations on business and human rights, often in collaboration with the ASEAN CSR network, civil society organization, and UN agencies. So these platforms have helped ASEAN's governments and the private better understand the UN guiding principle on business and human rights, or UNGPs, which emphasize three key pillars. First, the state duty to protect. The second is the corporate responsibility to respect. And the third is the access to remedy for victims. So we are also seeing other the ASEAN mechanisms start to integrate these ideas. For example, the ASEAN Labor Ministers Meeting, or ELMM, has discussed the protections of migrant workers and occupational safety, while the ASEAN Minister of Environment, EMME, have started to look at the environmental governance through the human rights lens. So even economic bodies within the ASEAN, like the ASEAN Peace Advisory Council, are beginning to include sustainability and social impact in their dialogue. On the national three has, I mean, like on the national level, there has been like progress too. Thailand became the first ASEAN country to launch a national action plan on business
Mm-hmm.
and human rights in 2019. Indonesia followed, incorporating both environmental and labor dimensions into its national framework. Malaysia has launched recently its own version, and the Philippines, Vietnam, and Cambodia are now drafting theirs. So these national action plans are important because they translate the global principle into local realities, helping countries clarify who are responsible for what and how companies can align business practices with human rights and environmental protection. That said, the reality on the ground is still uneven. So,
Mm-hmm.
in many countries, policies exist, but enforcement remain weak. Like regulatory agencies often lack resources, coordination among ministries is limited, and affected communities still face barriers seeking justice. Sustainability due diligence directive and other international regulations now require companies to trace supply chain and ensure free from forced labor and deforestation. So this means like ASEAN's exporters from palm oil producers, nickel miners cannot ignore these issues anymore. So we are really seeing shift. Business, environment, and human rights are no longer separate discussion. They are emerging into one big regional agenda, and that is very positive development, I think.
Yeah, actually, Dr. Unong, it was very nice that you started off by saying that um, that development has been happening in different countries, states in ASEAN, and this also provides a lot of opportunities, a lot of economic growth for every state. But at the same time, it is also recognized that environmental degradation or certain resources are being exploited. That's why right now the ASEAN is doing a bold step in
Mm.
trying to have this issue addressed by the national action plans on business and human rights that you just mentioned. And it was wonderful that you've mentioned that some of the countries, some of the states have already submitted theirs, and some are actually currently still developing their NAP. Well, with regard to that, can you give us your some of your insights on the NAPs? Maybe some things that struck you, or maybe kind of stand out in certain states that have already given their NAPs.
Yeah. So, while a comprehensive binding regional framework is still developing, several
Mm-hmm.
ASEAN member states, as I said, are implementing or drafting the National Action Plan on business and human rights, reflecting varying level of progress. So we remember Thailand was the first country in Asia to adopt BHR NEP in 2019, with the second edition following in 2023. The NEP
Mm-hmm.
was developed with stakeholder consultation and includes commitment on investment abroad to address potential human rights violation by Thai companies operating overseas. And we remember as well, like Vietnam published its NEP in 2023, focusing on improving the legal framework to promote responsible business practices. Uh, yeah, Malaysia recently, launched its NAP, and Philippines consider a mid-stage in promoting green initiative for small medium enterprises. So
Mm-hmm.
while there are numerous PHR initiative at national and regional levels, political system and general understanding of human rights and freedom impact how Southeast Asia governments implement the UNGPs in their countries. Yeah.
I see. And actually, Dr. Unang, since you've already mentioned Philippines and a while ago Indonesia as well, maybe we can tackle something that you can take us through a case study in the region, especially with regard to providing us now a clearer understanding on the pressing environmental and human rights challenges related to businesses. Maybe we can take, for example, the mining industry and deforestation that's happening in the region. I believe that Indonesia and Philippines have have certain case studies on that. Maybe you could shed some light on those matters.
Sure. Yeah, I work a lot in this context. I mean, in the mining areas.
Mhm.
So yes, absolutely. The best way to understand this is to look at what is happening on the ground, or where this global discussion meet real communities and ecosystem. Let me share two example. Yes, as you said, like the one from Indonesia and one from the Philippines, but show how deeply connected business practices are to environmental and human rights outcomes. First, Indonesia is the world's largest producer of nickel, a critical
Mm,
mineral used in electric vehicle batteries. So you can imagine it's right at the heart of the global green economy transition.
mm,
So the Indonesian government has embraced this opportunity, positioning the country as a global hub for battery and EV production. On paper, this is a major win: more investment, more jobs, and more value added at home. But if we look closely at what's happening in the region like Sulawesi or Halmahera, we see a very different picture. These are areas rich in biodiversity and home to indigenous communities. Yeah. So to make room for mining, forests are cleared, rivers become sedimented, and fishing ground are destroyed. Communities lose access to clean water and farmland, and cultural
mm,
sites are often damaged or lost. In theory, companies are supposed to engage with local people through
mhm,
what's called free prior informed consent, or FPIC, which means they must provide clear information, give people time to decide, and obtain real consent before starting operation. But in practice, consultations are often rushed or symbolic. Many communities do not feel they have truly been part of the decision. Still, there are emerging examples of change. A few companies, yeah, have begun to apply human right due diligence or HRDD processes. They map their impact, consult stakeholders, set up grievance mechanisms, and even start restoration work. These are still small steps, but they show that responsible mining is possible. This challenge is scaling this up, turning isolated pilot project into industry wide standard. Now, the second case, the Philippines. The Philippines has a long history with mining, especially gold, copper, nickel. It's one of the most resource-rich countries in the world, but also one of the most environmentally vulnerable. Deforestation, soil erosion, and water contamination have been major concerns for decades. Take Palawan Island, for instance, often called the
mhm,
Philippine last frontier, is known for its incredible forests, rivers, and coral reef. But despite being designated as protected UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, part of Palawan have been heavily affected by mining and illegal logging. So indigenous communities such as the Tagbanua, Palawan depend on this forest for their livelihood and a cultural identity. When mining companies arrive, they face loss of land, reduced food security, and disruption to their traditional ways of life. So the Philippines actually has one of the strongest legal frameworks in the region,
Mm-hmm.
the Indigenous People Right Act or IPRA, which guarantees indigenous communities the right to FPIC. But again, implementation remains a challenge.
Yes.
So, like maybe I would say like corruption, overlapping land titles, and weak enforcement of
Mm-hmm.
environmental laws often means that communities still lost out. This is also happening in Indonesia. So,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, there is the human cost. The Philippines has consistently been ranked among the most dangerous countries in the world for environmental and land right defenders. So many activists have faced like harassment, intimidations, or even violence for speaking out against destructive project. So, but there is also a story of resilience here. Local
Mm-hmm.
organization, faith-based groups, and youth network continue to fight for transparency, reforestation, community-led conservation. This movement reminds us that sustainable development is not just about technology or investment. It's about the people having a real voice in decision that shape their life. So both cases, Indonesia and the Philippines, show that the intersection of business, environments, human rights is really about power and participation. Who gets to decide? Who benefits? And who bear the cost? Those are the questions we have to keep asking. Yeah.
Yes. And you've mentioned a while ago, Dr. Unang, that the Philippines, for example, has a robust legal framework when it comes to indigenous people's rights. However, what happens is that there is some problem too when it comes to implementation, and maybe some other factors play like that are beyond, I guess, like the realm of indigenous peoples, which is also I guess that some corruption in the titling of the land and in those things. But I guess I just also want to talk about, since you've mentioned about getting prior consent from communities before doing any project, um, and before doing any anything with the community or the environment. Is there a way though that losses and damages um, can be quantified, and eventually some sort of reparation can be given to communities or those that will be affected, especially um, the people who, or the community who are living within these areas?
Yeah. So I refer to the Amnesty International's 2025 report. This
Mm-hmm.
report revealed that the several nickel mining projects in Philippines were approved without adequate community consultation or environmental assessment, violating the FPIC protocols. So communities reported coercions, lack of transparency, and intimidation during consultation. This really undermining trust and legitimacy. So environmental defenders face increasing threats, with the Philippines repeatedly ranking among the world's most dangerous countries for the land and environmental activists. This is based on the Global Witness report in 2025. So, like
Mm-hmm.
cases of red tagging, harassment, and violence against indigenous leaders remain widespread. So, yes, refer to your question, civil society organization continue to advocate for moratorium on new mining permits and
Mm-hmm.
push for stronger enforcement of environmental laws. Uh, local governments, such as like called uh, Cotabato province, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken how to pronounce, but have
Cotabato.
maintained. Yes,
Yes.
Cotabato province have maintained open pit mining bans, signaling community-led resistance. So at the national
Mm-hmm.
level, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, has begun reviewing mining permits and
Mm-hmm.
requiring stronger environmental safeguards through enforcement. yeah, for the FPIC. So more like the IPLC, Indigenous People and Local Communities consultations, uh, and this should be the priority for companies before they start their operations.
Yes, and actually, it was nice that you pointed that out, Dr. Unang. And you've also mentioned that, I guess, moving now to our next part of the conversation, which is ways forward, identifying actionable steps for ASEAN, especially the business community and civil society, in strengthening regional cooperation and accountability. You've mentioned a while ago that the civil service organizations have been very active in terms of the protection and prevention of environmental rights and indigenous rights. You've mentioned the Philippines, but maybe you can also give us some examples in other states in the ASEAN region, maybe in Thailand or Myanmar, Laos, or Indonesia.
Yeah. So because we already know what the challenge are. I mean,
Mhm.
this challenge is not only for the Philippines but for others. ASEAN member states. So the real task now is figuring out how to move forward together. Yeah. So I think like it's important for all government in Southeast Asia. The main thing is to strengthen the implementation and coordination. So this like the challenge for almost all the ASEAN member states. If you talk about the governments in Indonesia, mostly in all the ASEAN members, it should make like human right uh, and environmental due diligence or HREDD mandatory for high risk sector like mining in Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, and agricultural sector in Vietnam, uh, and even in Cambodia as well. So
Mhm.
they should also strengthen land use governance and
Mhm.
ensure that local communities, especially indigenous people, are meaningfully included in the decision making. So regionally, ASEANs can play a much stronger roles. I mean, like ASEAN member states can sit together. For example, building a regional platform on responsible business conduct, led by HR and supported by sectoral bodies like the ASEAN CSR network. This could allow countries to settle lessons, align policies, monitoring progress. This could like help the transform ASEAN's political commitment into measurable action. And I would also emphasize on the role of the business here. It's time to move beyond corporate social responsibility or CSR. The traditional CSR is already end. Which often focuses on a charity and instead of embed responsibility into the core of their operations. That's mean understanding where materials come from, identifying risk to people and the planet, and acting to prevent harm before it happens. So businesses should see sustainability as a long-term investment, not
Mhm.
just compliant. So when companies in Southeast Asia uh, treat human right, so I mean like when companies treat human right and the environment as part of the good governance, they build a stronger reputation, attract
Mm.
better and secure their license to operate. So, for instance, mining companies, because we taken a case study here, mining sector, right? So, mining companies could design joint monitoring programs with communities and agribusinesses could adopt zero deforestation commitment verified by third parties. This is really important. And you mentioned about the role of civil society. I think it's quite important that they play the bridging role. I think like connecting evident
Mhm.
communities and policy, so CSOs can raise awareness and empower local voices. while universities and think tanks can provide data and research to guide reforms. So, cross-border cooperation among NGOs and researchers in ASEAN is especially important because supply chains, as I said at the beginning, these supply chains do not stop at national borders. Ultimately, what we need is a self mindset shift that
A
eco-
mindset shift.
yes,
Yes.
that economic growth, environmental protection, and human rights are not separate goals, but
Mhm.
part of the same vision for sustainable development.
Wonderful. Wow, that has been very comprehensive, Dr. Unang. And on that note, actually, I want to emphasize what you've mentioned, that this is a goal, a shared goal for everybody, and that it does not just take the business sector or the economic sector, it goes way hand in hand with other sectors as well. And you've also mentioned about the academe and universities, the think tanks that could provide research and data when it comes to not just destruction, but also proposing solutions or technologies that can help improve or protect or prevent certain environmental damage. And on that note, we want to thank you, Dr. Unang, for that very, very, very nice sharing of your insights and the things that you have gathered and studied, just actually shared with us in this episode. Maybe before we end, I would like to ask, what then now is the hope for ASEAN? We have you've mentioned about a shared goal for all the states, and that different actors and state actors have to play a role, but also mind that they're not doing it in a bubble, but they have to share it with everybody. So on that note, is it very hopeful for ASEAN to, as it's going forward, is it possible to do business developments while also being mindful of human rights and environmental protection?
Yeah, this quite important to conclude here. So to wrap up, the intersection of business, environments, and human rights in ASEAN is not just a policy debate. It's really about the kind of future we want for our region. Do we want growth that leave communities behind and depletes our forests and oceans? Or do we want a kind of development that uplift people, respect ecosystem, and build resilience for future generation? So I would like to say that ASEAN has already made important steps through ICHAR's leadership, the growing number of national action plan, and the strong voices of civil society. The task now is to turn this commitment into consistent actions and
Mhm.
consistent action on the ground. Yeah. So if we can align our businesses, our governments, and our communities around that shared purpose, the ASEAN won't just be a fast growing region.
Mhm.
It will be a region that grows responsibly, and that is something that the whole world can learn from.
Mhm. Yes. And as a region, it can develop together. And you could see that cooperation happens not just within the state, but throughout the states working together. Thank you very much, Dr. Unang. We have heard so many things, so many wonderful things in this episode. Before we wrap up today's episode, we truly appreciate you tuning in, guys. And we want to say again a big thank you to our guest, Dr. Unang, for sharing his thoughts for this last episode in season 5. Before we say goodbye, Dr. Unang, would you like to share any of your social media accounts, websites, organizations, or any publications, or maybe upcoming projects with our audience?
Yes, sure. So we have the social media account first. You can go to our website and check all this media social accounts. Foundation for International human rights reporting standards.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Unang. And to all our listeners, we want to express our gratitude for your continued support throughout this season. This past 7 episodes have been an exploration and learning about geopolitics, development, and human rights in ASEAN. It has been such wonderful conversations with very, very wonderful speakers and guests. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button on Spotify to stay updated and never miss an episode. You can also stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube by following at WG ASEAN HRMEC. For more in depth information, visit our website at ASEANHRMEC.org. Thank you so much, guys, for this wonderful season. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged. Bye.